Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Emeka Ugwonye of DPA. Today we're going to have further discussions on some of the subjects that are important to DPA. Yesterday, we did talk about the registration procedure for DPA, but today we are going to talk about the subject of polygamy in Nigeria, especially as we saw this subject dominate the media in the past few days in respect of the case of Mr. Yul Edochie, the actor. I'm sure that you all know that it was not really the personality of Mr. Edochie that drove that discussion. It was rather the importance of the subject matter to our modern society. In DPA, as you know, we are concerned about the subject of justice, equality, and fairness. And among the things we do is our fight against domestic violence. So we are keenly interested in relationships between husband and wife, what you may call domestic relations. In that context, the subject of polygamy is important to us. I have written about this and we have discussed these things. I felt the need today to make a presentation on a video for those of you who would like to watch and hear me speak about this subject matter. Polygamy, as you all know, means a marriage involving more than two parties, usually one man and multiple women, one man and two wives or more. It is a worldwide subject matter, by which I mean that almost all over the world, various countries and various people have very strong views about this subject. It is permitted in some places, but it is condemned or rejected in most places of the world. In the context of Nigeria, polygamy is allowed to some extent within Nigerian law. Under the Nigerian marriage laws, polygamy is allowed if you contracted your marriage under the traditions, under the laws of the customs, either the customary laws of southern Nigeria or the Sharia law of the Islamic part of the country. They allow polygamy. But apart from that, our main marriage act, that's the marriage law of this country, Nigeria, forbids polygamy, at least in its letters. It says that once you contract a marriage under the statute, that is, if you have a statutory marriage, you cannot have a second wife without first dissolving the first marriage. In the case of Yul Edochie, whom we believe had a statutory marriage, he announced that he had a second wife who had borne a baby for him. That caused an uproar. Many people spoke against it. Some people found support for it, mainly among the men folk. So, naturally, we had to talk about it. There are so many problems with polygamy. It seems that whenever we talk about this subject, individuals will dwell on their own personal experiences and feel that it might be a solution to those moments when you get bored in your marriage, or when you need to answer to that human instinct that urges you to acquire more and more than you need. So you feel perhaps if you have more wives, that gives you a choice, gives you variety and options, and makes your life happier. It's not as simple as that. Apart from the law, let's keep the law apart. Polygamy is fundamentally wrong because it originates from a wrong. It has a wrongful origin. Men don't wake up one morning and say, hey, I want to go get myself a second wife. That's not how it works. What happens is that a man begins to cheat on his wife. It starts by way of adultery. You breach your promise to your wife, promise of fidelity, promise of loyalty. That is what you breached. That's how it starts. From that wrongful origin, you begin to conduct an affair with a woman. And at some point, you have to come to terms with reality. You either stop the wrongful affair or you try to legitimize it by calling that woman your second wife. So we all must agree that in majority of the cases, polygamy originates by way of a wrongful act, an act of betrayal, an act of disloyalty. And when something originates wrongfully, it doesn't matter what you do. That thing is likely to be tainted by the wrongful origin, regardless. As we saw in the case of Edochie, nobody believes that Edochie woke up one morning and decided to go and have a second wife. No. The young man must have been involved in an illicit affair with another woman. I call it illicit because it was wrongful. It was not a thing that his wife consented to. And why is it necessary for the wife to consent to it? Or why would we consider it wrong because the wife did not consent to it? You go back to the origin of marriage. Marriage involves a consensual act between a man and a woman. You got married because she consented to it. Both of you consented to it. There was a consent. Marriage is one relationship that comes to being through the consent of two individuals in equal capacity. They decided to get married. So anything you do about that marriage must require the consent of the other. Many people will tell you that man is the head of the family. That is so. But it's also because the woman consented. That woman consented for you to head her family. And that consent led to marriage. So insofar as consent is the foundation of that marriage, anything you do about that marriage requires consent. Nobody, rarely, there may be a few cases, but rarely would a man start polygamous relationship through the consent of his wife. You didn't sit down to say, sweetheart, today I will sleep with women, I will start sleeping with women and possibly marry one of them. So that underscores again the wrongful origin of the decision to get entangled in an affair that results in polygamy. That is enough for us to conclude that polygamy is wrong and that we should not indulge in it. That should be enough. But there are more reasons why polygamy is a problem. First, among these additional reasons, polygamy is inconsistent with a number of the values we share in the modern world. Values such as values of equality of the genders, values such as values of loyalty, values of cooperation, values of mutuality that we have to have in marriage. All over the world, effort is being made to ensure emancipation of women, to ensure empowerment of women, equal education, equal employment opportunities. All these values do not agree with polygamy. So when you start polygamous relationship, not only are you violating these your personal vow to your wife, you are undermining these key important values of modern society. And finally, I will emphasize that in most modern countries, including Nigeria, polygamy, as I explained at the beginning, could be illegal. It doesn't matter if the police do not enforce these laws, but you must understand that if you have a statutory marriage like Edochie, and you contract or attempt to contract a second marriage without dissolving that first marriage, you have committed a crime. And you ought to be in prison. Even if your country doesn't enforce that law, remember, it could be a problem for you if you try to move and live in other countries where these laws are strictly enforced. Polygamy is a problem. We discourage it. It is not consistent with our values, and we don't find any justification for it. Thank you.